Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm super excited to dive into today's conversation with Sarah Havens. Sarah is a photographer, daydreamer, and she specializes in capturing what makes your heart skip a beat. Those fleeting moments, as well as those big emotions. Genuine connection and affection is what she's after, and specializes in intimate storytelling. She is a photography mentor and two-time instructor for the Milky Way, and she is based in Southwest Germany. So welcome, Sarah.
Hello. Hey, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you today.
So excited. So tell us who you are and what you're passionate about.
All right. I'm Sarah. I'm here in Germany. And my passion when it comes to photography, I would say, is definitely in the family and couples kind of region. That's what I love the most. And just hearing everyone's story and being able to, capture those moments for them. That's what I'm after.
I love it. So what inspired you to pursue photography, and so how did you get started?
Oh, it's actually a very interesting story. A few years ago, well, that's already by now more than 10 years ago, I moved to the States from Germany. And while I was looking for a normal job, right, I did some photography classes on the side and I really fell in love with it. And I'm like, let's just try this. So I just started my business in that was in Virginia in 2014. And ever since then, I haven't looked back to my normal day job.
Yeah.
So that kind of how the whole business side started. Yeah.
I love it. So you started business in the States and then you moved back to Germany?
Yes, correct. We were
Awesome. So
very lucky to move back home for me, my home.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. So how long have you been back in Germany?
Since 2015.
Awesome. So what was it like moving your business back home?
It was, I want to say, almost for me a little easier because I
Yeah.
am German. So I feel like in the States it was a little harder for me just to kind of, I don't know, the whole communication is sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge. And it is very interesting how, like in the States, there were normal people, right, to work with, versus here, we have a big military community. So my client base is mostly military personnel. So it's kind of
Interesting.
it's a little different, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's I don't
I
know
love
how else
that.
to describe it. Yeah, it's an interesting move. And
Yeah, well, it's interesting too because specifically you really specialize in like intimate connection photography, which is not
mhm.
something that you would immediately think like military,
No,
right?
not at all.
Like,
Not at all. That is true. And I have to say the whole photography market here in Germany is so different.
yeah,
Like I myself, we never got professional family photos
yeah,
taken back in the day, and the market is just very different here. So even though I am based in Germany, 99% of my clients are Americans.
interesting. So do you find that a lot of your clients are looking to like Instagram and like what's popular in the States and saying, okay, can you replicate and do stuff like that here? Or do you find that they're just like immediately drawn to your work?
Yes, I would say over here, most people they want they want to capture their time in here in Germany because they're
Yeah,
usually only here for like a year or th up to 3 years. So they would always like to include that German,
yeah,
a little bit of German vibe in their session. So we go to castles a lot and
oh
shoot
my
in the
goodness.
German countryside. So that's usually what most people are after. But
Yeah,
then there is obviously we have lots of photographers here. But then I think when they see my pictures, they
yeah.
see okay, it is German, but there's always that like connection. So I think that's kind of that
I love
mix
it.
that they're after when they contact me.
Absolutely, just a beautiful meld of everything, of all your experiences. And I think that's so important because that is literally how we become artists, is
Yeah.
like who we are, innately from our upbringing and our heritage to
I agree.
what we experience. So I think
Yes.
that's so cool. And especially with these military families who are maybe from other places around the world, that is just so cool that you're able to capture the environment that they are in. And so they have something to take home as a beautiful memory of being there. That is
Yeah.
so, so cool. I love that. I've never been to Germany and it's
You should.
completely on my bucket list. Like I am a castle girl.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
like
There's so many castles around here, like one prettier than the other.
yeah. Oh, I love that so much. So, what do you think is the most important quality for a photographer or a creative to bring into their own work?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Their most important quality. I think it's just a personality because
Yeah.
everyone, is different. I, for myself, I'm a very introvert.
Yeah.
Just being here on camera is like I'm so I've been nervous
I
all
know.
day. So, and I feel like that's really what makes um not makes you stand out, but I think yeah, it's like how you approach people.
Yeah.
Some more extroverted people, there might be, more bubbly and more and I feel like that kind of also shows in the photos.
Yeah.
Versus me, I feel like I vibe
Yeah.
with other introverts. And it's more it's a lot of times it's just a quieter energy.
Yeah.
Um and that I feel like that just shows in the work too. Um, so I feel like that's a quality that everyone has, but everyone's quality is different. So it's just how you approach people and how you work with them, I think.
It's absolutely true. For years, do you know Paulina Duisman or Dushman? Dushman?
I don't
She's this
know.
amazing fine art photographer, and I actually hosted her I actually went to a workshop shop with her in California, and then I had her come and I hosted her at my own studio. And her approach and my approach are so vastly different. And like
Yeah.
this was probably about 8 years ago, and I couldn't figure out. I'm like, why can't I get my work to look like your work? She's like, Lisa, we are so different.
Yeah.
Like you are like just goofy and bubbly and like you play with kids. And she's like, I just sit back and watch. And
Yeah.
so your approach and my approach are just going to give such different results. And so
Hmm.
once I got that and kind of like leaned into who I am and who I am as an artist, I was like, okay, I can just be myself and that's awesome. And I
Yes.
think, right, it's like it's fine, like kind of coming to that term of like how you see the world. No one else sees it like that.
Right. Right.
It's
And
so
I
cool.
yes. And I think especially also in style shoot or when you meet up with other photographers, and that's where it shows. You shoot exactly the same couple in the same location, yet everyone's pictures are going to turn out different. So
Yeah.
that's so interesting.
It's so interesting, like just even like the prompts you give, or like the way you are, or like how you
Hmm.
make people comfortable, or like it's just so fascinating, like the psychology of the photography experience that we bring to it that maybe we underestimate at times, which I think is fascinating because in one of our retreat groups, there was a conversation going on about AI and
That's a good one.
right? Like, and how do we feel about AI? Is it going to be replacing photographers? And I was like, well, I don't think so, to be
Me
completely honest.
either.
Like,
I don't think so.
right? Because they come to us because this is the way we see things. This is how we see the world and the experience that they're having with us. AI can't do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I have to admit, I have been, the whole AI is so big right now
Yeah.
in everyone's like this conversations. And I have to admit, I did a little bit of research
Yeah.
and like just for example, for prompts,
Yeah.
just to it's good for inspiration. Oh, I never
Absolutely.
thought of that, and I might try it and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I definitely see it for us as photographers, not as a that we're gonna lose our jobs. I think
Totally.
it's gonna help us to just maybe think outside the box or get some new ideas that we wouldn't have thought of ourselves. But then when we get those new ideas, we're still gonna make it our own, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of like, do you remember when like way back in the day, like when Photoshop actions and presets first started coming out, and then
Oh
people
yeah.
were using them, and people were like, oh my goodness, you are not an artist if you use presets or actions. And
Yeah.
shame, shame, shame on you, right? And it was like, no, like it's actually just a tool. It can be used. You can make your own actions. You can use these
Exactly.
things in a way that you are still a very talented artist. You're not relying on something to do it all for you. You still have to be the operator of the system.
And
And I
just
think
work
that,
smarter.
right? Like, and I think AI is really akin because I mean, I've used it. I've used it for like prompts. I've used it for different blog post ideas.
Yes.
I've actually played with some of the art stuff and I've Photoshopped myself into backdrops just for fun because I think
Yes.
it's a tool. Like, at least use it, but use your own creativity. Don't forget that you're an artist too, right?
Exactly. And I have to say, especially from my perspective, where like English is maybe not your first language, and
Yeah.
I use it like, can you help me make this sound more fluid or something, you
Yeah,
know? That I think it's very helpful. I don't see it as a
absolutely.
competition. I think I see it as a tool, like you said.
Absolutely. Or even like come up with like, especially if someone like is a photographer and they're like, okay, you know what? I hate blogging. I hate blogging so much. You're
Hmm.
like, okay, hey, can you please come up with 10 different photography blog post ideas on XYZ subjects?
Yes,
And it will come up with these topics and you still get to write them,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
I couldn't agree more.
yeah.
Yes.
I think just like use it as a tool, use it for good. Now, you really specialize in some incredible couples photography, and your images really convey so much love and connection. So, my question is, do you have some couples that are really rigid and not relaxed? And do you have any advice on getting them to loosen up so you can capture that emotional connection?
Yes, that's probably the first thing everyone says to me, right? Like, "Oh, Sarah, we're not photogenic. We're so awkward." I'm sure you hear that a lot all the
Yeah.
time too, right? So I think a lot of times when couples are or families, it doesn't matter, when they're a little more yeah, they say they feel awkward or they might be a little shy or just don't know what to do, right? Um, I think what's important there is that for me is the preparation. So I always want to make sure that I talk to the person before we meet for the shoot, because I feel like when you meet and you're like, "Oh, hi, I'm Sarah. Let's go shoot." I feel like that's just so I would also feel a little overran, like, oh
Yeah.
my God, this is a lot at once. So I feel like it always helps when you speak to the people before and you get to know them. Um, I personally, I send out a questionnaire usually before the session just to kind of feel out what type of person they are. And they usually tell me, oh, we're more like introverts, or we like to just run wild or whatever. So I feel how um, it gives me an opportunity to kind of know in advance how to approach them. And I
Mm,
always try to kind of mirror the energy a little bit.
yeah.
So if someone um, just you feel like they're like super bubbly or they're maybe like, I don't know what to do, and
Yeah.
you know, so I try to mirror that a little bit and just remind them like, you know, you don't have to look in the camera if that's uncomfortable for you. I just want this to be an experience between the two of you if it's a couple. Just sometimes I tell them, pretend I'm not even here, like
Yeah.
just go on a stroll and I'll be like kind of by your side, but just ignore me. And then I also make sure that, you know, before we start shooting, so when we meet at location, we have like a little chat for like 5 minutes or so just to kind of get to know them and get them to open up before we start. I feel like everyone needs that 5 minutes to be on the same page and just kind of know who they're dealing with. And I feel like that helps a lot. And I feel like here, with us being that military community, it always gives us like, oh, so where have you been stationed and how long have you been here? So there's always something to talk about to
Yeah.
kind of get the conversation flowing, and that usually opens them up.
I love that. I think it's so important because, it's funny because we often forget, like, when they arrive to the session, we don't know what was happening in the car before they got there,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
And typically it's probably like a lot of fighting.
funny story. I think it was just 2 days ago. I meet my clients in the parking lot of the castle, right? And the first thing mom tells me is, Sarah, just a fair warning. We had a huge, argument before we got in the car, so mm, tensions are a little high right now. I'm like, well, it's okay, because we're just like we walk a few minutes and then I let everyone kind of decompress.
Yeah.
And I make sure to talk to the kids, like, I don't know what they've done that today, or just kind of get everyone um, a little separate so everyone can take a breath and then start fresh.
Yeah, I love that. I think we think that everyone is so unique, but we're so similar. Like we're
Hmm.
like, like my husband and I, we get in arguments on the way to photo shoots. Totally normal,
Yeah,
right? Everybody does. It's
it is.
stressful, right? Getting the kids
Mhm.
ready and like usually my husband doesn't want to do it. So like,
I don't think any husbands want to do
no,
it.
right?
It's the norm. Yeah. But
So
I
actually,
think again, that's where the preparation comes in. Like
yeah,
I really stress because usually you talk only to the mom or the
yeah,
girlfriend or the wife, and I really like make sure like, hey, make sure you have that conversation with your partners or
yeah.
kids. Make this the big event for the day, and I give them a little prepare list to like what to do during the days leading up to the shoot, just so the better they are prepared, the less stress, and the less stress, the better you're set up for success and hopefully ten not too much tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a situation where the dad just didn't turn it around and like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
same.
But I feel like we just have to work with it. I mean, in the
Yeah,
end, I try to bring that message across like, hey, those are, you're paying for photos
yeah,
and you want to look back at those photos in 10 years from now. And I
yeah,
don't know, I just find it harder if it's kids, we all understand.
yeah.
But I feel like if it's a parent, I don't know, they they should be able to just pull it together for
I know, just for
20
a little
minutes.
bit. I had a situation actually. It was probably, oh, it's got to be well over 10 years ago now, but I took a family to this field and I didn't know that there had been a mosquito hatch. And so
Mm,
I have like all the things in the car, all the sprays and everything. So I was prepared for pretty much any situation. But the dad freaked out and they had taken two vehicles and he drove away. He just like
oh
got in his
my,
car and left. Like
no way.
I was just like flabbergasted. I didn't know what to do. And unfortunately they or fortunately for her, I don't know. They're no longer together, but yeah, I did a motherhood session that day.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Or I've had family sessions where like they've booked a family session and dad doesn't show up. So if you're out there, listeners, like we run into these odd
All the
situations as
time.
well. And you're not alone if you have them. And it's just kind of like, well, you just kind of have to roll with it with what you get, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all we can do. Just make the best with what we're presented with, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So would your approach be the same with an older couple as well? Like would you be shooting an older couple using the same poses or would you somehow elevate them for a couple, say maybe in their 50s, 60s? How would you approach that?
Mm, I would probably leave out the piggyback rides, that kind of stuff, right? But other than that, I feel like a lot of my poses are because I am in fields a lot where
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of like structural elements to work with, such as walls or something to sit on. So most of my prompts, I think, are just walking and standing and sitting poses.
Yeah.
And that's also another thing that I ask beforehand in my questionnaire to make sure if there's any mobility limitations. So walking into the sessions, I know, okay, um, you know, how, if someone is not able to pick up somebody else, that's of course totally understandable.
Yeah.
But I would probably just dial it down a notch. Um, but I wouldn't want to lose the intimacy
Yeah.
factor. But that's also something I always ask beforehand if, are you snuggly? Are you like snuggly in public, or is that uncomfortable for you? Because if they are, then I don't want to make them do that. I
Yeah.
want to and sometimes if someone is looking for something even more intimate, and I make sure I have that conversation beforehand with mostly the girl, the wife, the girlfriend. Um, do you guys want to show skin? Because I personally, I love, if let's say the guy is shirtless or you can see a little bit of shoulder.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to make sure to have that conversation beforehand. So I'm like, yes, this might be awkward on the phone, but I just rather ask you now
Yeah.
so we're all on the same page, and then just again tell them to make sure to have that conversation with their partner. So, okay, this is how far we want to go. This is how much we want to show. This is how much affection we want to show. If they don't want to kiss in front of the camera, then that's okay. There's so many other ways to get what we want.
Yeah.
And so I don't, besides the crazy piggyback rides, or other than that, I wouldn't shoot an older couple much different than a younger, I think.
I love that. I think that's so great. And it's like what I really hear from you is how the importance of the clearness and the clarity in the conversations that you're having prior to set yourself up for
Yeah.
success at the session. Because I
Yes.
think a lot of us, like, we book it and then it's just like the client shows up. Like, you've had a very basic
Hmm.
questionnaire. And so you really aren't sure what you're walking into.
Yeah.
But having those conversations and having that clearness probably helps you with your confidence going into a session because you know exactly how you're going to approach it,
Yes. And
right?
I think I feel like it's a two-part two-part thing. It's one is the questionnaire and the talking to the client beforehand, and walk them through all the things. The other thing I feel like is also how you present yourself online.
Hmm.
Like on my website, you find exactly one castle picture. And yet still everyone wants to go there. I think there's exactly one picture on my whole website where someone's actually looking into the camera
Yeah.
and smiling. So I always tell people, or I ask them, like, oh, so if you have seen, my website and the photos on there, and then I would assume that's what you want. Please correct me if I'm wrong, right? So
Yeah.
I want to know from them, oh, yes, I want exactly what I see on the website, which is all like more intimate, and I'm a huge sucker for closed eyes and
Yes.
just not looking in the camera. So I have that again, comes back to the conversation. I make sure, like, is this what you're looking for, or are you looking for something more post, which I'm happy to give you, but I don't show that on my website as much. So if somebody doesn't have never heard of me before and just sees my website and says, okay, this is exactly what I want, then I'll tell them, like, then expect to not look in the camera. And so I feel like it's those two things. Show what you want to shoot, right? And then communicate that with the client. And I feel like that's what sets you up for success, um to get those kind of those
Yeah.
ideal clients, to shoot what you love, and to give the client what they want.
Yeah. I love that. What's funny is you sparked something in my head because I love to have closed eyes people as well. Like, it is my jam, just like in that
Yes.
dreamy. Well, the funny thing is back to AI. I was trying to use this AI software and it kept saying everything with people's eyes closed was like bad. And I was
Mm-hmm. The
like,
culling,
see the
the
culling, like even the culling software. I'm like, nope, like I'm not picking the ones that you're picking because that's not what I like.
Yeah, I
So
could
I
see
just think
that
it's
being
so,
a
right?
problem with AI. I have not used culling AI yet, because for that reason, because I feel like it would throw out a lot of stuff that I love.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it does. And I'm just like, so I've tried a few times and I'm like, that is not my these are not my strongest images. These are not the ones that I would select. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think I find it so fascinating, right? Like
Yeah,
to
but
just,
everyone loves different, and you
yeah,
probably know as well, like that the pictures your client loves the most is usually not the ones we love the
right?
most. It's always,
No.
it's never is.
No, it's so funny because I love the ones where it's like a tender moment between like a mother
Hmm.
and child. And it's always one where it's like both of them just smiling at the camera.
Yeah.
Like,
That's usually how it goes.
It's just is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So, do you have any favorite prompts that you love to use at your sessions?
Yeah, I think my one of the go-tos is um the walking ones to get everyone
Mhm.
warmed up. That's usually what I start with. And then especially if it's only a couple, I love to do the hip bump. I tell them
Yeah.
just walk and bump each other's hip, right? Like not too strong that you knock one over, but just a little bit because I feel like they feel a little silly and then they
Hmm.
laugh. So I feel like that gets them warmed up and it makes for great photos. So that's I feel like that's always a winner, that
Yeah,
one.
I love it. I love to do drunk walk with
Yes.
the parents. They're like, because they always have a story about how they were drunk walking somewhere.
Yes. And then another one, especially for couples, like my favorite go-to is when they face each other. Um, and I have the guy give the girl a kiss like right here,
Yeah,
and she just closes her eyes and leans in, and I feel like that always looks super romantic.
yeah. Anything. What's funny, my mom messaged me the other day. She's like, you know what I was thinking? She's like, you should see if you could photograph book covers. I was like, that is exactly my style.
Yes.
I think you would be good at it too.
Oh, I would love that.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
So, do you have any tips maybe for kids that don't want to snuggle and they just want to be wild and crazy at a session? How do you reel those little monkeys in?
I usually don't. I let
No.
them run.
Yeah.
Because eventually they'll be tired and then they'll come back to mom, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, because especially the wilder they get, or the wilder they are, and the more, I don't know, energy they have to run off, I feel like the harder it is. Like when the mom tries to keep them close, it's just gonna, it's the effect where it just gets worse the more you try.
Yeah.
So I usually tell them like, let's just let them go, and I use that moment to maybe take pictures of just the parents,
Mm.
and let them, because eventually their energy will shift and they
Yeah.
will calm down or they will come to mom. Usually, as soon as you start taking the pictures of the parents, they come back like, oh wait, I want an attention too, right?
Yep. It's
Um,
like every time it's like they
mhm,
just, or they don't want mom and dad to kiss or hug. It's so funny.
yeah. So I try to just kind of let them run wild, and either I follow them and take photos of their little exploration what they got going on, or I just kind of use it to take pictures of the parents, and I tell parents like just let them go, it's okay, because sometimes you feel the tension in the parents come up
Mm.
like, oh, he's running off, he's not
Yeah.
behaving, what can I do?
Yeah.
I'm like, don't
Don't
worry
worry.
about it, just that's why I like for location wise, if it's safe for them to just run off for a bit, I'm like, just don't stress, let them run off, let them explore, pick some flowers, and he'll be back.
Yeah, I love it. So, you ready for our lightning round?
Yes.
Okay, so do you have any personal projects going on right now? And if so, what is it?
Uh, so are we talking business projects or just completely private?
Anything
Personal.
you want, any personal
Okay.
project.
We have a lot going on. We live in a 100-year-old house. So there's always projects.
Yes.
And right now we're just getting a lot of projects done in the backyard.
Yeah.
So that's probably what we're working on most right now on
Love
the
it.
on the personal project side. Yeah.
Fun. Do you like to cook? And if you do, what do you like to cook the most?
I do. I have to admit, lately I even prefer baking over cooking. And
Ooh.
I started making macarons because they're so kind of finicky to get just
Yeah.
right. And I take it as a personal challenge. And now I just love making them in all kinds of flavors.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What's for dinner tonight?
We ordered Indian takeout. Since it's already dinner time
Yeah.
here, yeah,
I
I'll
love
be
it.
digging in as soon as
Yum. I
after this
love
conversation.
it. What's the best gift you've ever received?
Oh, I don't know. The gift of life, the gift
Yeah.
of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good answer. Oceans or mountains and why?
Mountains,
Yeah.
100%.
Love it.
Why? Because it just sets me at peace.
Yeah.
I love the Alps. That's where, yeah, it just sets me at peace. In our area, there's lots of rolling hills, and I never lived really close to the ocean, so I don't
Yeah,
need it.
I love it. When do you feel the most authentically yourself?
Uh, in my sleep, I don't know.
Yeah, I know, right? I love it. What makes your soul light up?
Um, it's a tough one. I don't know. Nature. I'm a big
Yeah,
hippie. I love being outside in nature
yeah,
on a beautiful day. Again, the Alps is my absolute happy place. That just sets me at peace, and that's where I'm the happiest, I think.
love it. What is the best piece of business advice you've ever been given?
I feel like the best business advice, I don't know, don't compare yourself to others, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a big one, especially nowadays with the internet and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
just
it's been interesting
hard.
because I know we started probably around the same time. I was 2010 when I picked up a camera, and there was like it wasn't a lot out there, and now it's just like you need to
Hmm.
like sometimes silence it and
Yeah,
turn it off in order
digital
to,
detox.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's important. So, where can our listeners learn more from you?
Um, well, I do offer mentoring. So on my website, you find all the info that you need about that. Other than that, I'm not a big YouTuber
Yeah,
or in general, social media is more work than joy, to be honest.
yeah, yeah,
Um, Again, that comes back to me being so introverted.
yeah.
That's why I'm like, please find me.
Totally. I love it. Now, you're also going to be teaching for the online family retreat coming up in
Yay,
June
I'm
of
so
2023. So, can you share a little bit about what you're going to be teaching on?
Yes, I have a beautiful family that I shot, and it's a family with two boys with a super crazy lighting situation. We had super harsh sun coming in and out. We had two really wild boys, so you'll see how I work around that.
Yeah,
And we take some family photos, parent photos, and then we edit them. So you'll see basically my whole spiel from start to finish.
love it. So, I always love to end my interviews just with this last question, and it is, what are you currently curious about or artistically curious about?
Oh, I think when it comes to photography, um, I just want to dig deeper, so to
Yeah,
say. Since I love couples photography, I wouldn't mind exploring a little bit into even more intimate couple
yeah,
session. Just want to get more even intimate photos, no matter if couples or families or motherhood. Um, but it's kind of hard to convey people for that.
yeah,
Especially here, like I said, it's
yeah,
a military community, which a lot of people are a little more on the conservative
yeah,
side, to be honest. Um, so it's kind of hard to find people that are
yeah,
open for more intimate sessions.
yeah.
But that's kind of where I would love to explore a little more.
Love that. Love
Yeah.
that. Well, thank you, Sarah, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. This was great. It's nice to talk to other people on the screen.
Right?
This is so rare to me. I think this is my first like interview on the computer ever.
I love it. I love it. Well, you
Yes.
did amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And yeah,
Thank
this
you.
was fun. I
So
really
fun.
really enjoyed it.
Oh, my beautiful friends, I hope you have enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. I am sending you so much of my light and my love today and every single day. We'll see you next time.